Before you glaze it, you need to prepare something. And for preparation, I'm going to go through from the bisque way first. Your pieces has to go through the bisque. Okay. If not going through the bisque, it's going to be cause trouble because your green ware in the glaze fire, when they fire the kiln, they kind of bring up the temperature very fast, and all the moisture still inside of your clay body want to escape out, and the easiest way is explode. So if you don't have your piece has been bisque, your piece is going to explode in the kiln and cause the trouble because all the clay is going to spray around other people stuff. So make sure you to go to the bisque first. Before you dip your pieces in the glazes, first you want to make sure all the spot, you want to run your finger through there, see if there's any scratchy. If there's a scratchy, especially when you do hand build, there's some spot that might have a very sharp corner. You want to run it down. You can use the sandpaper to do that. And also you can use something like glaze fire pieces, like this cookie. You can use that as a sandpaper too. Okay? You can use that to grind it. But make sure when you grind it, go outside. We have a dumpster outside. Do it outside, okay? Because we want to keep the studio dust free, okay, as clean as possible. So make sure you dust it up outside. Since you are dusting all the pieces sitting on the shelf, it might collect some dust. And before you apply the glaze, you want to clean it up, okay? And this is called dust up. It's very easy to do. Is get a sponge, squeeze out the most water. Okay, you don't use the sponge with a lot of water. So squeeze out the most water and then just go around it and slightly wipe it on the surface. And the reason why you don't want to have so much water in the sponge is if you sponge is too much water, the water is going into your clay body. And your clay body absorb too much water, it's not going to absorb the glaze. So that's why use the damp but kind of a dry sponge. Wet it and squeeze out the most water. Okay, and just go dust up. Okay, so that's the second thing. And the third thing is that you want to do the resist, we call wax resist, to protect the glaze from sticking on the piece, especially when you are doing the firing. Absolutely no glaze on the bottom. Okay, you have to wipe it clean, or you can prevent it, the glaze from sticking on by brushing the wax resist. And here we have wax resist here in 2 buckets. So these 2 container with 2 type of resist. Okay, this one with the green label is plain wax resist. Okay, plain, not adding anything. But that one is called aluminum wax resist, and we add a little bit of a color to identify these 2 are different. So for this kind of a wax resist is actually the plain wax resist, but we are adding this powder we call aluminum hydrate. It's very refractory powders. It's not going to melt during the firing, so it helps your piece to get a little bit of a cushion underneath after all the wax burn off, and helping your piece to shrink more evenly. So that kind of wax you want to put it underneath of your pieces, okay? But for this kind of a wax resist, it's basically, you can also use that, but I will recommend you use the aluminum wax resist for the base because helping your piece to shrink more evenly and helping in case your pieces, some of especially porcelain, if you don't have that aluminum wax, your piece is going to stick onto the stone shop. So that helps it separate, okay? And for the panel wax resist, you can just use for decoration, like put 1 layer of glaze and then you want to show the second glaze and you want to put some of your design or drawing or maybe painting. You can put it on top of the first glaze and then you can show your first glaze for the decoration. So this kind of a wax resist is for decoration. But if you want to put it underneath, that's fine too, okay? Other good thing for the aluminum wax resist is when you're making the lidded part, the part with the lid, and you want to fire the body and the lid together, you want to put that kind of wax resist in between. So it's easier for you to separate once it's been fired. Okay. So make sure you choose the right wax resist to put it on your piece before you apply the glaze. And again, after you put on the wax resist, give it a little bit of time to dry. Okay. I would say maybe between 15 to 30 minutes before you dip it into the glaze. Okay. You want to wait until the wax resist completely dry. Otherwise, even you brush the wax resist, you have a glaze on it, it's not going to resist the glaze easy or better. Okay, so make sure you let it dry completely. If you cannot wait, you can take it outside under the sun for maybe 5-10 minutes to speed up the drying process. So that is the wax resist. And then for this kind of a plate, there's one way to show you where you brush your wax resist is that you can get a pencil and then just go around it because there's a thickness of the pencil, right? So you just go around it and then you can make a mark, underneath, and you know where to brush your wax resist. Okay, so this is about 1/4 inch high. So use this method. So you give your guideline where to brush the wax resist. Okay, so that's how you prepare for your pieces. Then after you glaze it, provide cookies. What is cookies? Okay, the cookie is like this. Okay, this cookie is made of clay. Okay, a slab of clay, and they cut it out, and you want to put it underneath. After you glaze it, you leave it on top of it. So in case the glaze run, it's not running on the kiln shelf. So that is protecting the kiln shelf, basically. Okay, basically. Could be slightly wider because you want to prevent the glaze accidentally coming on. So slightly wider, it's better. Okay, but not super wide. Like I have this cookie here. That's not good, right? Taking too much room because you're wasting the room, right? So find the cookie that is closer to the base of your pieces. You can provide your own cookies too by making it out of the slab and going through the piece fire too. Okay, so that is cookie, and then now let's talk about glazes. First, how you choose your glaze, your glazes, and all our buckets here. Right, you see the buckets here. We have 4 pieces of test tile on. Why we have 4 pieces? Because we have mostly people have have different clay bodies, white clay body or brown clay body. Okay, like in our case here is B-mix is we consider white clay body, and Orion we consider brown clay body. So they want to show you that difference after fire when you are putting on the white clay body or when you put it on the brown clay body. So that's why we have 2 different clay body here. Then why we have 4 test tiles here? Because we are doing 2 completely different fire method. One is called oxidation fire. One is called reduction fire. The result, some of the glaze could be dramatically different when you're doing the oxidation fire or reduction fire. On this one here, it's not that much difference, but if you check the bucket there, it's called peach red. It's a red color when you are firing in the reduction, but you are firing in the oxidation, it turns green. So red and green, so that's a completely different color, right? So that's why that is the difference between the oxidation fire and reduction fire. And also for the clay body, if you do oxidation fire for Orion or B-mix, it's not that much different, but when you do the reduction fire, you bring out the brown clay body more darker than the white clay body. So you have like Orion, your clay body will be a little bit more brownish color in the reduction fire. Okay, so that is basically the difference. And then we'll go through the bucket of glaze, how to apply it. But now I want to show you how to choose your glazes. Okay, and later we are going to go over there and go through our test tile there for 2 glaze combinations. Okay, 2 glazes you apply together. And for now, if you want to choose just by checking the textile on the bucket. Like our pieces, with a lot of texture-rich surface. So when you are choosing that kind of glazes, go through the textile and check the textile. One single textile has two different colors from the bucket here. Okay, from the bucket, like this one here. I don't know if you can see it. I cannot bring it here, right? See this color? This is one single glaze. But when we are doing the test, we dip first one all the way toward here, all the way here, maybe 2 seconds, okay? And then we dip the second dip, the same glaze, another 2 seconds. So meaning this part here is thinner and this part here is thicker, okay? So you see that one glaze shows the breakup, okay, the break. That is the glaze to choose for your texture-rich surface. Why? Because when you have a texture-rich surface, the deeper spot, you will have a thicker glaze, and the higher point, you will have lighter color. You have a different thinner glaze. So you want to break. So it will show your design or your texture better. Okay, so choose that kind of.
You dip it twice?
No, you don't need to dip it twice. You dip it once, but somehow the deeper spot will have thicker glaze. The glaze is like water. It's going to the lower point. So the lower point, you will have a thicker glaze automatically. The higher point, you will have thinner glazes. Okay? So that is the glaze to choose from. And to give you some idea what are the glazes here, from my experience, the wood blue is a good breaking glazes. Okay? Wood blue or Doros turquoise. Okay? And maximum and celadon or even chino. Okay? Chino in the reduction. Can also get that. So those are the 5 glazes. You can check the textile there too. Okay, when we are going there, I can show you that what it looks like at the fire. How do the kiln tech know you are going to do oxidation or reduction fire? So that's when you choose which shelf you put it on. Inside the kiln room, we have a section marks as reduction fire, and the section marks as oxidation fire. So you leave it on the reduction shelves, then technician knows that you are going to do the reduction fire. Okay. Yeah, if you are not satisfied with the one single color of glaze, you can combine, you can apply multiple glazes on the same spot too. Yeah. And also, we haven't go through that yet. Actually, there's we so-called underglazes or oxides. And that is that if you're not completely satisfied with the color we currently have here, you could bring your own color. Okay, that is called underglazes. Here are the test. Like that is the underglazes. So I have several different brand and different color. Like here it says W means Western, the yellow, blue, and pink. I have a Duncan. D means Duncan, and they are coming like these bottles. You can buy it from clay supply store like this. And if you have a smaller amount, you can buy small bottles. That clay supply store is called, the one close to us is called Clay Planet. You can buy it from there. And they have a whole section of underglazes color, or even the glazes, But I will recommend you just use our glazes. Here is the how to choose your glazes. And now let's go over how you apply the glazes on your pieces. Basically, here I write down 4 methods, right? The easiest way is if your bucket is big enough, I will recommend you just dip it. It's much easier. And you can apply the glaze more evenly. Okay, dipping is one method. And then the second one is pouring. Okay, pour. Pour is that when your piece is too big or your glaze is not enough, you pour. But when you pour, it's not going to coat it. There's a technique for pouring the glaze to go evenly. Okay, you have to go and consistently and pour out. So that pour is other way. And then you want to spray, like you spray the paint. But we don't have the choice here. But other studio, they have a spray booth, and they can spray it. Okay. When you don't have, when you spray it, you don't need to use a lot of glazes. Okay, you spray it on. Okay, so that is spraying. And then the less glaze method I would choose, if I have to, if I don't have enough, I will use the brush. But the brush, when you choose, you might want to use the brush that is a little bit thicker, so it can absorb more juice. Otherwise, if your brush is not very thick, you can absorb enough. Once you brush it over, you got a brush stroke on which is very hard to get it even, right? Very even. So thicker if you want to brush it. If you have no other choice but brushing it, use a thicker brush to do that. Yeah, you can brush it. Okay.
Here?
Yeah, usually when people want to brush it, they could put some kind of a gum so that it's slightly thicky so you can brush. Yeah, but then when your surface is dissolving, it's going to dry it out really quick. So if you want to brush your pieces, I might want to slightly moisture the surface a little bit. Okay.
But
maybe
you would use these glazes to brush.
you could. Yeah, you could. Yeah. So we just unload the kiln, and this is what happened when you have a glaze too thick. It's running down, and then is that if we don't have a cookie, then this piece is going to stick on the shelf, and the shelf is damaged. Some of the shelf is very hard to clean. Okay, very hard to clean. So damage your piece, that's okay. But damage the shelf is a big deal. Okay.
It doesn't look like it's a quarter inch.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the one you double glaze, and when the glaze is thick, even quarter inch is not enough. Yeah. I'm going to show you how you prevent the glaze from sticking too thick, especially on the bottom, closer to the corner. Okay, I have a method to show you how I prevent it. Okay, you could never know which spot in the kiln. If your piece is in the hottest spot, then it's going to run much easier than the cooler spot. So that you have to really experiment on it. And also a good way of prevent that damage the kiln shelf. That's my concern. You concern your own piece, right? Your piece is stayed on the shelf, not good for the whole studio. But you damage your own piece, you learn from your lesson. Okay? But that's why you want to put it on the cookie. Right? Put it on your cookie. Okay?
If it trickles down, can you sand it?
Yeah, there are a couple of ways to clean up. We have a disc, maybe next week or two, when we have a finished piece, and some of you might get some glaze dripping on the cookies, and I will show you how to clean it up. And we have a diamond disc. You can put it on the wheel, or you can buy the diamond sanding pad. It's very easy to clean it up and smooth it out. So the glazing method for dipping, pouring, spraying, and brushing. And choosing the glazes I show you already. Go to the buckets, and the textile around the handle is the textile, only the one glaze. Okay, if you want a double glaze, go to our chart, our textile wall there to see that the color after fire. And also I show you that how to choose the glaze to show your texture, right? So those 5 glazes that are good for showing only one glaze and showing your texture. And actually, if you have a texture-rich surface, I would recommend you just use one single glaze instead of multiple glaze. It's going to be too busy. Okay, too busy. So just use one and show the contrast by the glaze showing the contrast by itself. Thicker and thin, they break. Okay, so choosing the glaze, right? And now let's go through the waxing, right? So for the wax, and first make sure when you are applying the glaze, put a newspaper on the table to protect the wax or glaze from sticking on to the table. Okay, and the brush here. So we're gonna dip this in the aluminum wax resist and brush it over. And again, that color is different when you have aluminum wax. We get it to the pink color, that pink color. And remember, you want to use the sandpaper to sand down your piece if it's too scratchy, right? And also for that your piece sit there for the summertime, maybe 10, 15 minutes. Wintertime, maybe 15 to 30 minutes. Wait till that the surface completely dry, okay? So that is how you apply the wax resist. And how about this? What do you do with it? All right, the brush. And you want to clean up the wax, right? So here we have a little kettle right here, right? And you want to heat it. And once it's heated, when you are ready to wash it, right? So this is already heat up. Little bit of hot water. Hot water is melting the wax, right? So that's how you clean it up. Okay, clean it up. You don't need to use a lot of water, right?
So the wax is water-based.
The wax is water soluble, yeah, water based. Yes, and the heat is melting it to remove the wax. That's how you clean up the brush. Make sure you use the right brush. All our brushes here are for brushing the wax resist. And the brushes here is for brushing the glazes. Or if you want to just touch it up, use that kind. You don't want to mix it up. Yeah, normally we will recommend, if you are beginner, recommend you brush the wax resist about 1/4 inch higher to prevent the glaze from accidentally drip on it, right? So brush a little bit higher, okay? Or after you glaze it, you can use a sponge to wipe it, okay? The wax is to prevent the glaze from sticking on it, but if you have a glaze sticking on the surface, use a sponge, which is also very easy to clean it, okay? Which I will show you. Right, so that is how you prevent.
Use this color be the difference. This color instead of the aluminum. Will the result similar?
The result, like I explained earlier, the difference between that aluminum wax or plain wax is that we add a powder to the aluminum wax. So after fire, there are little bit powder, like a sand. It's underneath of your piece, help your piece shrink more evenly. That one, you don't have it. But basically, they are the same. But the aluminum is helping your piece to shrink more evenly. And also, if your piece is porcelain, sometimes if you don't have the aluminum underneath, your piece might stick onto the cookie, okay? So that's, I recommend it. Use the aluminum for the bottom. Or if you want to fire the lidded jar, like a teapot or lidded jar with the lid on the body together, you brush that, it's easy for you to separate it. Okay, so now let's go over the application. So the factor affect how thick your glaze sticking on your pieces. There are three factors right here, right? So the thickness of your wear. Okay, if your wear is thin, it will take less glaze. The thickness of the glazes. Thickness meaning how much water content in the glazes. Okay, your glaze is watery, then when you apply it on, your piece will be thinner. If your glaze is thicker, and you will have a thicker glaze. Okay. So, and the third one is how much time you leave it inside the bucket. From my experience, if your glaze is not overly thick, the maximum you don't leave it inside more than 4 seconds. Okay, 4 seconds. If you want to double glaze it, like I want to dip this one glaze and then the second one I do the second glaze, then you want to cut down the total amount of time. So you might want to dip your piece in 2 seconds and the second one 2 seconds. Okay, so total 4 seconds. So that is the general idea of how much time there. Like I said, the other factor is you want to consider how thick your wall is. If your wall is thicker, then you might want to cut down to like 3 seconds instead of 4, right? Because the thicker, so the glaze much quicker than the thinner one. So that is a factor, and you want to practice more, and you will see that the difference. Okay. If you buy the underglazes, you might want to do just like I did here, test it first. Okay, brush the underglazes. You brush multiple times to see how the thicker underglaze or how the thinner underglaze look like after fire, and brush it. And maybe one part you might want to put the clear glaze to cover it. One part without glaze, clear glaze cover it, and see the results. Okay, that's how you do your test. If you are not sure what temperature you can go to, just do it like what I did here. Okay, on top of it. So even the underglaze is low fire, it's not going to go over anywhere, right? It's on top of it, sits on top of it. So that's how you test it. Okay. This one was reduction. Yeah, but yeah, again, you want to test the difference between oxidation or reduction. So do both, right? Do both. But from my understanding, usually the underglaze is not affecting the color that much either in oxidation or reduction. Okay, but oxidation you might get more true color than in the reduction. Okay. True color. That color, it says the color like blue color or yellow color. Okay. Right. And now we talk about overglazing and thin wall. Okay. Wax resist. So we cover pretty much everything. Now let's get to how you prepare your glazes right here. So this bucket isn't not much glaze there. It's about halfway. Normally, if I have a larger piece like this one here, I would choose the glaze that is almost full so I can submerge the whole piece in there. Instead of you do one side and the other side, you have a line in the middle. Okay, so choose the glaze, the bucket's full, and still you want to show your texture. So, but just to, this one is probably not, they are all halfway, okay? Right. So if you can see it here, actually the glaze is quite nice. Some people might have used it already. But if you have a glaze sitting there for overnight, you might have a separation. The top layer might be just water, and all the heavier powders is settled down to the bottom. So when you want to, before you glaze it, you want to make sure you're mixing the glaze completely. So this is what we use here for stirring, okay? So first you want to go through the side of the buckets. Usually they are glaze kind of sticking inside the bottom corner, right? So you go there and kind of bring it toward the middle, the center, right? Push that toward the center. And the glaze is made of chemical powders, okay, mixed with water. So it's heavier, a little bit heavier than water, so usually they settle down. So you want to kind of create a turbulence so that you bring the powder to the surface. So this is what I do, right? Go there and there. Until you see the surface become creamy, okay? If you see the watery, that's no good. Some people complain, why my piece doesn't look like the textile? Because you are not applying enough thickness of the glaze, okay? So you want to check the surface become creamy, and you can also test it too, right? Just get my finger there and dip it in there. And you see that it covers all the texture from my fingers, meaning this is stirring very, very well. Okay, so that is the stage that I would submerge my pieces into the glaze. All right, so that's good. And now let's do that. Okay, in case there are a little bit of a residual glaze, you can wipe it up easily. Okay, wipe it up easily. Usually when you are dipping the piece inside the glaze, you are not going to use your hand to do that because first your hand is getting dirty, will get the glazes, and then you will have your finger around very clearly. It's very hard to fix it. So we have a tool right over here. It's the tongue that you're using it to hold your piece. So you're gonna use that to hold it. Let's do this way. Right, you're holding this way. So after you are done, you will have four pieces of dots there without glaze, which is much easier to fix it. Okay, I will show you how to fix it. Right, and we're talking about 4 seconds, right? So I'm going there, okay, and pull out. Right, so go in there and pull it out. All right, you see that? There's still some residual glazes there. And also you can see if that surface is still shiny, meaning that glaze is not dry yet. But when the surface becomes non-shiny, you can touch it. You can touch it. And just carefully open up. Clean up the tongue. And you can go there again and do a thorough cleanup if there's still glaze sticking on there. Like here, if you have too much glazes here, you could scrape it off. Use a knife and scrape it up onto, let's do it here. Right? You can clean it up. And you can slightly wipe it. You can wipe it up higher, a little bit higher, to prevent the glaze accidentally dripping down. And one other way to prevent the glaze from sticking in too thick, let me show you other way to do it. Okay, so this one is ready to go, right? Just find a cookie and put it on.
How did you fix the little holes?
Oh yeah, how do I fix the little hole? So when it's wet, you don't want to mess it up. But once it's dry, like I say, that the glaze is made out of a powder, right? So all you need to do is get your fingernail and kind of spray it. And now this part is smooth. Okay, and if like this part here is a little bit too thick, right? Get a knife, slightly scrape up. Or you can use the metal rib to do that too, right? Just kind of scrape up here and smooth it. Okay, it's a powder, so you could easily spray the glaze around it. Okay, and once it's dried, it's much easier to do that. So you don't want to rush. Just leave it there, wait till it's dry, and it's much easier to clean it up instead of rushing it. And the inside too, right? And just rub around it. Spray the powder all over and smooth it. That's it, right? So that is how you do that. And then for like this piece, I told you that I want to prevent the glaze from sticking too thick here. There's one way that I you should do without putting the wax underneath. Little bit water on the non-porous surface and just dip it there. So I let the water soak into the base. So once the base is absorbing enough water, then it's not going to take the glaze. It's much easier to wipe it out. Okay, so that is one way. If you don't have time, you could do that too. And also here, if I don't want the glaze to get too thick here on the bottom, what you do? Slightly soak the base into the water. So now this part here absorb a little bit of water. So when I'm glazing it, this part will take little bit less glaze. And when the glaze is not as thick, it's not going to drip down. Okay, so that's how you do it. And anything like this, if you don't want the glaze to go there, just soak it in there and then you glaze it. Okay, you glaze. When you want to use the running glaze, okay, when you want to use the running glaze, you can use this method to prevent the glaze from sticking too thick, especially on the bottom. Okay. Okay, now let's dip the thing here too. All right. Pour in the glaze. You can pour it all the way, or you can just pour halfway and do just like I did. Slowly turn it so you will have glaze covered overall inside the container, and then just dip it. For the finger mark, you can patch it up later. I will show you how to do that. Okay, now it is dried enough for me to touch. You can either use your finger to just get some glaze and patch it here. Or you can use the bubble syringe and absorb some glazes and just touch it up there to patch it up. And clean up the bottom. Okay, so ready to go to the kiln. Okay, for anything like this wide and big, it's hard to fit it into the bucket. So I'm going to just scoop up the glaze into a shallow pan and then dip the whole thing in here. Okay, so if you don't have anything to grab on it, just use a finger to hold it and dip it. Okay, and here, the finger mount without glaze, you can just give some glaze and patch it. Okay, so that's how I glaze the sushi plate. Scoop it out here and then you can dump it back. Right, so after the glaze fire, I want to show you the final result of this 4 pieces a demonstration for my class. That is the wood blue. Didn't show the texture quite nicely because the glaze is a little bit too thick. And the same thing here, the wood blue wasn't, the glaze is slightly a bit too thick, so it covered up all my texture decoration. And then I told you that I forgot to show in my class, so I brought it to other studio and then I did the demonstration. Pour it in and pour out and then dip the whole thing and patch it up here on the bottom. This glaze is showing the texture quite nicely. And you can see that all the glaze is coming out, showing my texture. And the same thing here for the sushi plate, and this one is even nicer. All that the texture is showing through from this glaze, and that's the unglazed part here at the bottom. Alright, so this concludes my glazing demo, and I hope you will get something from my information. So thanks for watching and see you next time.